Hello. So that is a pretty tough act to follow. So on a sort of slightly more positive note, I'm going to talk to you about ways in which we work to activate empty space. And of course, well, you hopefully know about the Open Doors project in Kettering, where we've activated one of the empty spaces, one of the long-term empty spaces. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about that. And also touch on some of our other projects that activate empty high street spaces. So, Meanwhile Space, who are we? We've been operating since 2009. We're the market leader in meanwhile uses in the UK. We design innovative meanwhile solutions to create better places to live and work by taking challenging, redundant spaces and working with local communities to bring them into affordable temporary use. We've worked on over 60 projects in this nature to date. Currently we have over 180 tenants in 80,000 square foot of space. The Meanwhile Foundation is the charity arm of our organisation. It's responsible for delivering the Open Doors project. Meanwhile Foundation was set up in 2012 to encourage growth of using vacant property for projects designed to deliver economic development in communities or for social and environmentally led regeneration. The Meanwhile Foundation aims to ensure that there is greater support for participation in meanwhile use. It makes it easier for people to deliver meanwhile use projects by providing tools and sharing knowledge. It provides comfort that it's done legally with standard document templates, and for Meanwhile Foundation projects, it means that we can manage these projects with business rate relief. So Open Doors, what is Open Doors? Open Doors is a pilot scheme matching landlords struggling to find tenants for their space with community groups looking for space. We operate 5 sites across England, in Bradford, Stoke-on-Trent, Slough, Rochford, and of course Kettering. It's a project funded by the MHCLG to open up spaces for local people to test community-focused ideas that can make positive use of high street space and bring people together. The spaces are offered free of charge to users and aims to take away any barriers that community groups might have to access space and to deliver community-oriented activities. So the way that we operate this scheme is that the project is funded by the MHCLG. Meanwhile Space are managing the spaces on behalf of the Meanwhile Foundation. The lease is between the Meanwhile Foundation and landlords, and community groups take the space on a licence basis. So the aims and objectives of this scheme is to deliver much needed services to community groups, including vulnerable groups, such as young adults and old people who are at increased risk of suffering from social isolation, for example. It raises the profile of community uses on high streets. It contributes to the regeneration of struggling high streets by activating those spaces. It increases footfall in high streets and town centres, and it helps to build socially and economically stronger communities. So I don't know if many of you have had the chance to visit Open Doors in Kettering yet. It's quite an active, bubbling social space, community space. The landlord there is nationwide. Prior to us taking on the space, it was empty since 2014. The space is fitted out to make improvements to the space. It's furnished with basic furniture package, and the space is made safe with Open Doors branding. It's a facilitated space, but it's a self-managed space. So all tenants take on a licence for a set amount of hours per week or month. Tenants have direct agency of the space and have to think about how to run it and program the space. They take on public liability insurance and they need to engage the public. So the project gives users an idea of what it includes to operate a commercial space. It gives them a chance to engage with the public and find out whether they might be interested in taking the space on a longer term basis, for example. And it also gives them the opportunity to start thinking about under what terms they might do that. So whether it might be taking on costs for renting a space, perhaps on a laddering basis, or collaborating with other groups. And we're exploring the legacy of the project at the moment in terms of what opportunities there might be once these sorts of schemes have come to an end. So we have we've got 9 user groups currently in Kettering, and those include Fruitful Abundance. So Fruitful Abundance is a network of volunteers that collect surplus food from local shops and supermarkets and makes it available via the Open Doors space. You've got the Northampton Chronic Pain Support Group, and they come together and share experiences from different parts of life. Picture the Difference is a collaboration with the Town Centre Youth Partnership, and they deliver a multi-arts programme through the Open Doors space, which is a hub for them. So that's 3 of our groups in that space. So as well as running the Open Doors space, we, as mentioned, run a number of other spaces and a number of other bases. So we do take on a lot of high street commercial spaces, but as well as that, we also come up with ways to bring empty spaces back into use. So we, for example, we are working on a number of empty spaces. So we have, for example, Blue House Yard in North London, which is a temporary development on a disused car park, and we have it for a number of years. There are timber buildings there that have been developed for retail and community space. We have purpose-built incubation sites, which we manage on a meanwhile basis, which will eventually go back to community ownership. We work to bring heritage sites back into use, and we're working more frequently on live-work projects as well. We have a range of different types of tenants. So we work with makers, retail businesses, food and beverage businesses, creative and tech, and of course community groups, which we're working with on the Open Doors project. And then I thought it would be useful just to talk in a bit more detail about some of our other high street spaces which we're working on to bring those spaces back into use. One of these projects is Queen's Parade. We've been working on this site since 2012. It's a parade of 9 shops in Willesden Green. We have taken this space on a joint venture basis with a profit share with the landlord. It's a Meanwhile Foundation project, and it's an opportunity for businesses to test their model at around 60% of the market rate. Residents currently comprise an art gallery, jewellery shop, carpenter, yoga studio, magazine and design studio, and those uses change often. The opportunity for tenants is that it's an incubator model for them to test their businesses on the high street. The landlord benefits by having occupancy while they're waiting for planning permission. They're looking to develop the site eventually. And we're on a 1-month notice period, so there's that level of flexibility from their perspective. They've also had business rates covered by Meanwhile space, and so far that has saved them over £400,000 since we've taken on the site. It's an end-of-life building, and Meanwhile space largely take on the maintenance of that, so again that saves the landlord. Key stats, which I thought were quite interesting. We've had over 70 tenants across the life of the project so far. I've mentioned the business rate saving. 90% of those tenants live and or were born or locally raised, and interestingly, 8 out of 9 of our tenants in that space are women. Aberfeldy Street is a project we've taken on recently. We are looked to be involved currently until September, and the aim is to get this project up and running, and then the landlord will hopefully be able to operate this for the next few years. This is a street of 24 shops in Poplar. It's on an active development, so you've got the site being developed around them, and it will eventually be knocked down and replaced with new shops. So as an active development, it's had one end of the high street has been kind of closed off, and it's resulted in a number of shops becoming vacant through that period. And of course, from the landlord's perspective, they didn't want the space to just gradually grind to a halt and just sort of become a bit of a wasteland. So we're involved to make sure that space becomes activated throughout the life of the development, and then there's a smooth transition into the development. So we are working with the landlord to make temporary improvements, and those include street art from the top of the buildings to the bottom of the buildings that reflect the culture in the area. So it's a heavily Bangladeshi community, so we're going to have there's art that is inspired by Bangladeshi textiles, which will be kind of floored to sort of the full height of the building, and then those empty shops will be activated and improvements made to them, activated through new tenants who can take on the space, and those existing businesses will provide business support to then help them transition onto new spaces. The opportunity for developers is their low barriers to using the space in East London, which is a prime location, and that includes a rent ladder. So those tenants come in on a zero rent basis initially, and then the idea is that as the street becomes more activated, we can increase that rent. The benefit from the landlord's perspective, this is a developer and the local and the housing association, is that it's a placemaking tool. It starts to put the area on the map throughout the life of the development, and they also it also generates this community cohesion. So you've got this existing community that's a long-time community that's been living there, and this new community that are coming in to live in the new development. And it's a way of bringing those two quite disparate communities together. The community developments is that it's a diversified retail offer. We're looking for a variety of offers there, not just retail. We're also looking at, again, kind of community uses that can bring those spaces back into use. It activates that street for the community, and it creates an increased safety. We've also got lighting going in that will help light the spaces, and of course you've got the fact those spaces are going to be open throughout the day as opposed to just being empty. So those are a couple of our other high street projects, which just hopefully should give you a slightly different taste to the Open Doors project. We carry out impact assessments on all of our projects, and we had last year we released our 10-year report, which was a collection of all of these impact assessments. There are a couple of key pull-outs here, including one from a landlord who in this case was the council in Malvern Forest. And then the interesting stat here, which I thought would be useful in terms of the types of users that we have taking on our spaces, by far and away the largest group are the creative sector, and this is one of the largest growing sectors in the UK at the moment. So again, I think there's a real opportunity there in terms of activating empty spaces through creative uses. And you can see down there you've also got the green square there is the percentage of community uses. Community use is also very important. So just to finish off, some tools and some information sources which you might find useful. There is already on the gov.uk website the meanwhile use leases and guidance for landlords. That's a useful place to go for people that want to use those spaces as well. There's a meanwhile lease on there. Meanwhile Foundation, we do offer a membership service, and that allows people to access the tools available, and also provides people with public liability insurance. Open Doors, we are developing a legacy program, and part of that will be guidance for landlords, for community groups, and for local authorities. If you are interested in finding out more about that, I would suggest getting in contact with my colleague Nikki, who is here with me. Nikki operates or oversees the Open Doors space in the High Street, and we can let you know more about that in due course. And of course, there's a Meanwhile Space website which provides you with case studies and a lot more information about our projects. And that is it.